drink. And the rest of our wonderful, amazing sponsors. I want to thank Workability, which is where we're sitting right now. If anyone's interested in space here, what have you, look for Ani. I believe he's out there roaming around. But without any further ado, I would like to welcome our wonderful speaker. Give it up for Rachel. All right, great. Well, thank you so much for coming tonight. I appreciate it. I know it's December, kind of crazy season, and you have like 12 kids at home. Or how many?
I have 3.
3, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
but they feel like 12 though.
yes. So let's start with today, and then we'll kind of go way back. Talk to me. Talk to the folks here. What do you do? Talk to me about your business and what you're doing these days. Sure.
So as one of my kids say, I'm a women's inspirationalist. They've given me that title, and I kind of like it. So what I do is I inspire and empower women with everything that they need to launch and grow their own businesses. So that looks like courses and trainings and workshops, and then I also run a women's entrepreneur community local to Denver and the surrounding areas called Sheer Impact. So really just under the premise of bringing women together in support of one another and collaboration with one another so that they can fulfill their potential and their dreams of business ownership.
That's fabulous. So let's go way back and look at Rachel as a little girl. At what point did you see yourself? By the way, Rachel's brother's in the first row, so he'll stop you if you're not being completely upfront with us. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, you're an entrepreneur. You're leading your own thing. You're doing great things. You're helping women get business started, taking their business to the next level. You know, thinking back, was there a certain point when either you knew that you wanted to lead and build something, or that you wanted to empower people or empower women specifically? Is there something, a moment, what have you, that occurred to you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you started asking about childhood, and when I was young, I wanted to be a singer, and I studied voice for, I don't know, at least probably 12 or 15 years, and realized how much I didn't like to be on the stage. And here I am with you, Doug. This is where I find myself today. But really, because my work is so much about other people, I've found some comfort in being in front of people. But really the moment when I became very passionate about the work that I'm doing is when I myself had an opportunity to change course in my life. I had been living in New York City and working in the fashion industry. If anybody lived in New York City earlier in their careers, you know that it's just a bit of a rat race. Everybody striving for something bigger, something better. Like there was never that feeling of, I feel really great about where I'm at right now today. And in moving back to St. Louis, which is where I'm from, I identified a niche an untapped niche in the fashion industry, in the apparel market, and just decided to go for it. And I think I was at a time in my life when I was really looking for more meaning for myself, and to be able to integrate all the things that were important to me. I never saw myself in the box or the confines of a job title. Like that just felt too constraining for me. I have this weird like visionary mind, so I see how all the pieces of an organization work together, and then I'm very detail oriented, and maybe type A a little bit.
Just a little, right?
And so, you know, having my own business and launching in my mid-20s, that first business really was the first time when I felt like I was in charge of my own path, completely in charge. And whatever happened was because I had created it. It also gave me the enjoyment of working in all different areas of a business and figuring out where my specific superpowers were, you know, where I was really deeply fulfilled, but also felt very good about my talents, you know, and the skills and what I was doing.
So prior to launching this, hello? Yeah, let's go Michaelis. Everybody hear us okay? Yes. Sorry, I can't hear you back there. No, just kidding. Prior to doing this, and you're in New York in the rat race, so to speak, Did you work for some companies? Did you have sort of the normal job?
Well, my first job out of college was with Stuart Weitzman, who's a high-end women's wear shoe designer, if anybody knows. So I really sought Stuart Weitzman out because I wanted to be in the fashion industry. I had gone to the Fashion Institute of Technology for school. And so that's about as corporate as I got ever. And really, it's the only time I've ever worked for anybody else. So I worked for Stuart on a team of, I think there were probably fewer than 20 employees
So
in the company, really small organization. It was like exactly what I wanted for myself and my career and what I envisioned and had been working towards with my schooling. And then I got the job, and it just was like, okay,
Was it just not fulfilling?
the shoe perks were great, but no, it wasn't fulfilling, because to be in one space of an organization and to be sort of like drilling down numbers, right? If you're working in merchandising and it's all a numbers game, right? And you get to go in the showroom every now and then, whatever, and meet customers, but that just wasn't what I saw myself doing long term. And so when I moved back to St. Louis, I got married, started my business. I was 26 years old, all in the same month. And I would say that was like, you'll hear we don't do anything really quietly or smoothly. But that was really, I think, like the start of what has become a really deeply fulfilling, rewarding career that I've had so far.
And I'm curious, going from having your business in apparel, correct? Was there a certain point, or did this happen earlier, kind of identifying maybe a lack of opportunity for women to build their own businesses, or that there wasn't something out there or someone out there to help them, to coach them, what have you? Was there a point through this that you kind of noticed what was lacking out there, if you will?
Mm-hmm. So I was in St. Louis, and I just had a conversation with somebody in the room who was saying that their friend in Connecticut doesn't have a lot of networking opportunities. And in Denver, we really take it for granted that we have so many, we have to learn to say no, right? There's always something going on, and so we have to really figure out like what serves us, what our priorities are, and so forth. So I was in St. Louis, and this is, I don't know, I was 26 years old, I guess, like 15, 16 years ago. So there wasn't a whole lot going on. And there was a group of 4 women entrepreneurs who came together, and we had very different businesses, but we got together about every 6 to 8 weeks, and we just informally created this thought partnership and small little network group to be able to support each other.
Sure.
And so I would say that was the first time I felt like I saw the power of what happens when people who are doing different things come together in support of one another and really authentically share what they're doing. And but the reason I've segued into the work that I'm doing now as a business coach and really working with women is because there weren't specific coaches or mentors that I could find that really understood the path that I was going on. So I found a mentor through the Small Business Association. I had to seek out all of my own mentors. Like my accountant became a mentor. He's still somebody who continues to mentor me today. But there was nothing formal. I had to do like a ton of my own research and a lot of trial and error. And in a what do you call it? I'm not in a service. In a product-based business, where you're carrying inventory, like trial and error is really not so great. But that's what it was. And so, I think it was definitely different, and we had to like try harder to figure it out.
Yeah. So I'm curious, going from product-based type business, apparel and things of that nature to going to where you went, it's an interesting dynamic in the sense that you're an entrepreneur, you're a leader, you want to be in your own business, you want to do your thing, but then you're going to something where now you're taking that and you're kind of teaching it, right, or coaching it, leading it, what have you. How has that been for you, making that switch?
Well, it put me kind of on the stage again.
Yeah.
You know, and I did it to myself. Like I have nobody else to blame. But there's definitely been a learning curve, a comfort curve.
Sure.
I've had to seek out my own coaches and mentors, one of whom is in the room, who's my speaking coach, and somebody who really guides me and can give me some strategic advice and honest feedback. But I found that I love teaching because I'm just sharing what I've learned.
Sure.
You know, I'm just sharing what I know, and I'm on a journey too of continuing to learn and grow myself, and I love the connection that it brings. So yeah, it's been amazing.
So I have to ask you, I've had the luxury of seeing you speak, been to your last 2 conferences as a sponsor, which was really cool to be there and be a part of it.
Thank you for supporting.
But I'm curious, and normally when you're there or you're involved, you're sort of leading it, right? And my guess is, when you're coaching, you're the person asking the questions. How does this feel to sort of be in the other chair? Are you even thinking about it? As you and I, had a brief prep call about what this would be like. Does this feel different? Kind of you having the opposite side, if you will. I'm just curious.
I don't think so,
Yeah.
because for me, I love sharing my story, and we're just scratching the surface here, but.
Sure.
I think we're all inspired by hearing different pieces of people's stories. And so you never know when something that you say is going to inspire somebody else. And I'm every single day inspired by the people around me. And so anytime that I can just kind of share like what my journeys look like, I'm so happy to do that.
That's awesome.
So,
and
yeah.
I think when you can say I've been there, I've done it, I've went through these challenges and things of that nature, I think that really helps. So we're a little bit all over the place, and I apologize for that. Let's step back again in the sense. So you go to St. Louis, you launch this company. Let's try to get from there to where we are today a little bit. Walk us through that a bit.
Okay, so I'm in my mid-20s. I'm in a product-based business, building inventory, traveling to all the fashion markets, which was just a thrill. And for the first time in my life, I'm going to Vegas by myself. I'm going to LA and New York City and Atlanta and the Chicago markets. Those were the top markets I went to, and just like walking around these shows and doing my thing. And I was like, I just fell in love with what it meant to build a brand,
Right.
and I took so much pride in that. So I did that for 5 years.
Wow.
And during that span of time, my husband and I were also trying to get pregnant. And, I was trying to get pregnant, but with his help. And
Thank you for clarifying.
yeah. And so we ended up going through many years of fertility treatments while I was running the business. And 5 years into owning this business, I got pregnant. And with a little bit of a surprise that there were 3 babies in there. Wow. So in the ultrasound room, I made a decision that we would buy a minivan and sell the business. And so that was the beginning of the end of that chapter of my life.
Was that? I mean, obviously you were thrilled to have the kids, but was it hard for you to kind of because you were making the progress you were building your brand and to have that kind of shut it down for a while?
So I think what was really hard for me is we were in the multi-6 figures and like really heading into the next level of growth in that business.
Sure.
And this also was 2008, 2009, heading into 2009. So everybody knows when you just say those years what was going on. And I said to my husband, I don't want to have to try to get through this with 3 babies.
Right.
And so really I was able to detach so quickly, which was a little bit odd. But for anybody that is a parent, I think you can relate. I had 3 babies. It was the most amazing thing, no matter what that brand did for me earlier. Sure. And so I really was, we sold the business, and I was in the hospital for 6.5 weeks before I delivered, and I was signing papers in bed in the hospital, and so it all just came together at the last minute, and I never looked back, So
you have 3 babies.
Yeah.
At what point, was there a point when you you kind of got the itch again to do your thing, or was there more of a plan behind it as to, okay, once the kids are X age, what did that look like for you?
Well, I spent their early years doing a lot of volunteerism. I don't sit still very easily, and so I kept my head in the game, if you will, like really doing work that was important to me, where I felt like I could bring some value and support other organizations that I was passionate about. And when we moved to Denver, so we made the choice to move to Denver in 2016, and it was at that time that I knew I wanted to start something new, and I wasn't sure what that would look like.
And the kids at this point were?
They were 7.5.
Okay, so they're in school, so it probably makes it a little bit easier. And so what did you do? It's time that you know you're ready again.
Yeah.
What did you decide to do, and why?
So I spent the first, I would say, 6 months really doing a tremendous amount of networking in Denver, just meeting as many people as I could, men and women.
You didn't really, I mean, you didn't have connections here so much, right?
I didn't have any connections, except for my brother, but he doesn't really know anybody. I think they know, they know all, they know him through me now. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't. I just started finding people on LinkedIn. It was actually the first time that I had used LinkedIn.
Oh, really?
And I started just reaching out to people in certain industries and saying, hey, I'm moving to Denver. I'd love to take you to coffee and just hear more about what you're doing. And through that experience, and I remember meeting so many people and sitting down, and I remember specifically having a conversation with my brother at one point, as you could tell, we're close, and saying to him, like, I feel like I have all this talent, and I just don't even know what to do with it. Like this entrepreneurial mind, you can't put it in a box, right? And so I just wasn't sure, like, what is this gonna look like, and what can I build? And so I just felt a little bit stumped for a while. And then it started just naturally happening, where people would hear my story of building a business in my 20s and selling it, and then asking me for advice. And what I found was I was really, really excited to help other women craft their life, like really intentionally think about what it is that they wanted for themselves and help them get there. And I do that through what I call the freedom of entrepreneurship. Other people find that in other ways, but that's my specific focus.
And was it, when you first kind of started doing this, I mean, you obviously recognized that people were coming to you and that you loved doing it. Did it become sort of a one-on-one coaching thing, or did you right away kind of jump into like, let me run a group or an event? Yeah.
So I did both, and it's interesting, I think sometimes we don't listen to our own intuition. I started with a group called the Business Boot Camp, and it was a 3-month program that I developed to take people from idea to launch. And I ran one group, and it was okay. I learned a ton about the process and the program I was developing, but I also learned a lot about the stage that women needed to be at before they embarked on something like that, which was really valuable. And so I stepped back after that group and decided to refine my process and systems through one-on-one coaching. So for the last 2 years, I primarily worked in a one-on-one capacity and have just recently switched back to groups. So I now run 2 signature programs. One is called Real Launch, which takes women, it's the Business Boot Camp 2.0, takes women from idea to launch in 90 days. And then Real Momentum, which is more of a group coaching, local program that helps women grow and scale. So really ensuring that they've got all the their marketing systems in place and other foundational systems in their business so that they're able to really leverage that and grow from there.
And I'm curious, I mean, when you look at the challenges, for what kind of focusing, I guess, on the launching a business, do you see, are there unique challenges for a woman versus a man that in terms of launching a business, or do you see similarities, or is it kind of, hey, you're so sort of focused in that space that you're not necessarily seeing a difference? Just curious, are there unique things that you're seeing?
Yeah, I would say I am living in a bit of a bubble, and so I'm not sure I can accurately comment on that.
Yeah.
but I mean, I think the unique challenges really for women are that no matter what our roles are, we wear a lot of hats. Like we do, whether we're moms or not.
Sure.
You know, we have other people we care for, that we're responsible for, people or animals. And so I think the unique challenge for women is really figuring out how to construct their life in a way that they can integrate the things that are meaningful to them and that matter, while also you know, building something that they're proud of. So
Sure.
I primarily work with women in the solopreneur or small business space. So I'm not working with women who are out there looking for funding at the stage that
Right.
I encounter them.
Right.
It could be that they go on to do that, but so they're not encountering some of the challenges that you might be sort of like,
Sure.
you know, trying to get out of
Building
me.
a larger company or what
Yeah,
have you.
yeah.
Okay, that's great. And then talk about, you haven't touched on the conferences, so
Yeah.
this has become a big thing. What's that been like for you? Or maybe take a minute and just talk about,
Sure.
I don't know, show of hands of people that have maybe attended or been involved in Rachel's conferences?
Woo-hoo.
Awesome.
So in 2018, in January, I actually remember this one too. I walk in my brother's house, I'm with my family and my husband, and I said to him, let's put on a conference. He's like, okay, let's talk about that. And he's in financial services, not in women's empowerment, so I don't even know how the two of those go together. So that was end of December, and by January, I was committed to a space to hold my first women's conference in mid-May. And I just had this idea and this feeling that if I could create space for women to come together in the spirit of collaboration and in a place where they can share their talents with one another,
Mm-hmm.
and really just find their support, their circle of support and their network that they need to be able to really go out there strongly, that could be a really cool thing, right? I didn't know research. I mean, I was still new in town, so I didn't really even know that there were other women's organizations out there.
Sure.
Doing some conferences, smaller workshops, whatever it might be. And also, I had met all these cool women. And so I was like, cool, let's get all my cool women that I've met in the room together. Like, I'm a connector. I like all these cool women to meet each other. And so 150 women showed up to the conference. And thanks. And it was a lot of fun. And from the stage at the end of the day, I declared, you know, there will be more. Like, I can see you're asking for more. I hear you asking for more. And I didn't really know what sheer impact would become. Mm-hmm. And I could tell you I still don't know exactly what sheer impact will become. But we've now held 2 conferences. We're in the midst of planning the third, which is April 2nd. And in the meantime, what we've been doing to develop community is just bringing together groups of women on a monthly basis for a free coffee connection and co-working meetup, so that people can just gather. I really feel passionate that the barrier to entry has to be very low. When you're working with the kind of women that I work with, like, they don't have a lot of extra funds to invest in themselves and in certain things, and so I don't want them to even have to question, like, is this something I can spend money on? So we have monthly events, then we put on quarterly workshops and trainings, and then the annual conference. I think what makes us different is the very tactical, practical, skill-building type of workshops that we do. You know, I want people to walk away, like, with things that they can implement right away in their business. I want them to be inspired, sure. You know, I want them to connect with their people, but I really want them to be able to level up. And so that's really what our focus is.
And I'm curious, I mean, when someone comes to you, and I imagine that, you know, there's an idea, right? There's a you know, hey, I want to build this, I want to sell that, I want to, you know, this is the business idea I have. Is part of what you're doing, kind of looking at that, assessing it, and seeing is there something real here?
Yeah, so I personally work with women who are more in the service industries. But I would say what I do is really help them frame something that's much more realistic. So I think it's great to dream. I think it's really good to put like your big dreams on paper and to envision where you want to go, so that you're pushing yourself a little bit outside of your comfort zone, and you're really striving for something bigger. But at the same time, I feel like it's my job to help them understand what the realities are of starting, what the process is of what it looks like, what the time frame can be. You know, I think that that's one of the things that
Sure.
people sort of go in thinking it's going to be a whole lot faster than it is.
And I'm curious, does it vary in terms of are these people that are currently working and they want to leave and start this, or is it more of the part-time thing, or is it, you know, I've got the time, I've got, you know, maybe not the money, so to speak, but the ability to do this, or is it really a little bit of everything?
Yeah, there's a real mix. There's a real mix. So some women are, you know, in some sort of 9-to-5 or corporate job, and
Yeah.
they're looking to get out, so they want to start it as a side hustle or get it going before they leave the security of their paycheck. And then other women are maybe coming out of having stayed home with their children, and so they're ready to start something new and don't feel like they can re-enter corporate world.
Sure.
And then other people are just going full on in. So yeah, there's a real variety.
Throw a curveball for a minute. You know, looking at the whole thing, from leaving New York, going to St. Louis, starting this thing, the kids, and then coming out to Denver. You know, talk about. I mean, was there ever a time when you're like, "What am I doing? Should I just take a regular job, or should I? You know, this is. You know, I'm trying to balance the kids and the husband and the move and this and that. I mean, was there ever a time where you just said like, why am I doing this, and I want to walk away? Did you ever hit that point?
Yeah. If I'm being honest, you know, I mean, I think I always say like entrepreneurship is a roller coaster, and thankfully the highs really outweigh the challenges, or else I wouldn't do it. But absolutely, there are days where I'm like, what am I doing? You know, and I'm working harder than I would if I worked in a job for somebody else. But at the same time, you know, my priority, even though I'm a workaholic, my priority is my children.
Right.
They're 10 and a half years old. They need me more now than they did before. If you think, I mean, they are tweening so hard. It's like, I know that the hardest years are ahead of me. And so I couldn't work for somebody else,
right.
You know? So, I mean, I work weird hours sometimes. So yeah, I think that it's really important to be honest about what the journey looks like.
Yeah.
It is a roller coaster. There are days where, you know, or just activities that you do, right? Or something you put out into the world that didn't go like you think it's gonna go. It doesn't land for people. It doesn't make this right amount of money for you, whatever it might be. But I think that's when we have to remember our dreams. That's when we have to remember our visions and what ultimately we're working towards.
So when you get in that place, you're able to kind of look at all those other things, those other factors to kind of boost yourself back up, if you will.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
And also my people,
Yeah.
you know, like I think everyone has to have their people, their tribe, their community around them, and you lean on those people during those times.
Your brother.
Yeah, my brother.
Yes. So what's I mean, looking at this, you've got the third conference coming. What's next? I mean, I'm guessing, and I won't believe you if you tell me it's not true, that there's something else you're thinking of. There's another facet of this business, or something else that's coming.
Yeah, thanks. Well, you know, what I'm actually really excited about this year is in 2020 is to go deeper into what I've already created. So I think if there's one thing that I fell into or put myself into that maybe I could have done differently, it would have been just trying to do way too many things at once. Again, like I threw the conference and had no vision of it becoming anything bigger, which is a little weird that I didn't think about that. But I just didn't have any expectations about what would happen after that one day. And so what I want to do now is really go deeper, creating deeper impact, reaching more people through my courses, supporting more women through our community. And I think, you know, I said I don't know what sheer impact will become because I'm still working that out. To me, it's just really important that it be a community and not a community that gathers once a month or quarterly or annually or whatever, but that it be a place where women can come to get what they need, whether that's support or skills. But again, balancing that low barrier to entry. So like a membership organization, I'm being recorded, I'm telling you that's not the direction we're going. That's not what I'm interested in. I don't feel like that is what's best for the women who are coming to us. But we still have some things to refine, you know, in terms of how we can really create the most impact through sheer impact through that community, how we can serve people in the best way possible and so forth. So that's really what I'm looking at in the new year.
Do you want to try to take this thing beyond Denver in terms of geographically?
I haven't decided. I have absolutely thought about it.
Yeah.
It's local by design, so we reach women who are Denver and the surrounding areas. Yeah. So slightly south, slightly north, whatever. And it's local by design because, you know, when we talk about creating a community of support, like one of my accountability partners is in Australia. And I haven't talked to her in a few weeks, and we were talking every Monday night at 8 p.m. when it was noon her time on Tuesday. But it's like really hard, you know? She's 16 hours ahead of me. And so if either of us has a conflict, like rescheduling just doesn't happen. And so I think with sheer impact, what's really important is that women like have access to what they need on a regular basis. So if I were to expand, it would be not with the intention of combining communities and trying to create something national, but really trying to create the same thing local by design in other cities. But I'm not ready. Yeah. You know, I wanna like maintain some level of sanity and again, my priority with my children. Sure. And you know, I'm learning about what my limits are. I think I can do everything, but then, you know, I don't know. Somebody like gives me a wake-up call.
I can tell you, I think it's fantastic what you've done here. I mean, I met you shortly after you moved here, and you know, to be able to build a community in a new city that you didn't have connections, and your brother let you down by not knowing anyone, you know. So no, but in all seriousness, I mean, what you've been able to do here, I think is amazing, and you know, I'm honored to have you up here today.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You know, kind of one last question from me, and then we'll open it up to the audience. You know, what advice would you give someone here or someone that watches this on the website? Because I know people are watching at all kinds of weird hours and such. Your Australia friend, maybe. But what advice would you give a woman that maybe is kind of wants to do something, and whether it's she's got a 9-to-5 job and, you know, leaving that sort of safeness, if you will, or maybe she's been home with the kids for a while and wants to get out there, or maybe she's single and whatever it is she's doing, it you know, there's some fears around, you know, going out there and doing her own thing. Like what advice would you give?
Well, it depends. If somebody's
Sure.
if somebody's coming, well, if somebody's coming because with the intention of starting a business, I can speak from that angle in particular. But I would say a couple of things. One
you know,
is
there's that
to
fear holding
really,
them back that they want to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I always say, like, as a business coach, I minimize overwhelm, take out the learning curve, you know, reduce the learning curve. So whether it's hiring a coach, finding a mentor, or finding an accountability partner, I think that unequivocally, it is so hard to do it on your own. And the women who try to do it on their own get frustrated, they get down, they're spinning their wheels more. And so I would just really encourage people to find their person, you know, again, whether it's a paid relationship or not a paid relationship. And then beyond that, the community of support. So finding your small inner circle of 3 people that you can confide in, that you trust, that where the relationship is mutual, you know, where you have, I always say, like, the give and get. right? Where you feel valued because you have something to give and to offer, and vice versa. So I think that really with those two things, people can be successful.
That's
and
awesome. All right,
Yeah.
let's open it up for questions. Just show your hand if you want to ask one. Sir.
You mentioned, excuse me, at the very beginning, you mentioned something about how there's so many opportunities in Denver to network and meet new people, and you have to filter those. I just moved here, and I'm kind of trying to do that. Do you have any suggestions on how to optimize your time with networking?
Yes. I teach a lot of my clients how to say no. So I think it really starts with knowing a few things about yourself. One is your values and your goals. So what is it you're looking to achieve in networking? If you're looking for a job, if you're looking for just a professional network to hang out in, to share what you're doing, or if it's a social network. So I think first and foremost, knowing what your goal is in networking, and two, knowing about yourself, the kind of person you are. So I'll never forget that my first year here, it probably was you, Doug, encouraged me to go to Startup Week. And so I signed up for one event, and it was a women's rally or something. And so I thought, okay, cool, I'm gonna go to that. And I signed up, and there were 149 people, I think, on the meetup that had registered. I'm like, okay, I can handle that. I'm a pretty outgoing person. You know, I'm a little bit better one-on-one. And so I said, 149 people, I can do this. So I walk in that night. There must have been 1,500 people there. I had no idea that they could RSVP in other places. So, and I'm alone. I know nobody. And I'm like, holy cow. And I had been sick. And so I had said to myself, well, just go. It's just this one thing. You're just going to go to that one thing. And I hopped in the line to get a water because I had been sick, so I wasn't even going to get wine. And I just introduced myself to the woman behind me. And so I think knowing about myself, like I've only been back to Startup Week once because I was like I had a little bit of PTSD from that experience. But you know, do you want to go to a meetup where there are going to be 20 people? Do you want to walk into a room where there are going to be 200 people? And so I think that also helps you narrow it down.
And real quickly, I would say, check things out. You know, there is, on any given night, there could be 2 or 3 things in this town. But you know, I think it's good to experience, I mean, see what the concept is of that particular thing. But if it sounds interesting, don't be afraid to take a look at it. And if you go there and it's a bunch of people eating Cheetos and drinking cheap beer, maybe you like those things, I don't know, but you
No judgment.
You don't have to go back, and that's what I would say, because there's literally built in Colorado is a great site and has a list of pretty much everything that's going on in this town. It's a good thing to look at and see what's going on, and really, I think sometimes people do fear going to certain things or get caught up on different people's opinion, but it's about you and what you need and what you want. So check it out, and if it's not right, you don't have to go back, right?
Yeah. Actually, I have a follow-up question, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
I agree with you, better one-on-one than trying to walk into a crowd and meet target audience. When you look at people on LinkedIn, are you just searching specifically, like Denver entrepreneur women, like, women here's like matches, message them, or do you have a strategy as to how to find, for example, I have an idea for business and I'm potentially looking for a co-founder, and I've gone to a few startup events and I feel like the people that I meet are in completely different sectors and not close to what I'm looking for at all.
Mm-hmm.
How do I narrow that down?
Yeah, I mean, I think, a lot of coffee. I just think like the more people you get in front of, I sat with somebody yesterday who's trying to publish a book, and she put on one of her 2020 goals is to get 12 more no's before she self-publishes. 12 more no's. So I think like it is a process of elimination, right? The more people you get in front of and meet, and you'll start to get a feeling for, or maybe they connect you to somebody else. I don't have a strategy like that. Typically, I'm connecting with people who know people for a specific reason, or if I'm looking for speakers for my conference, then I'm looking for somebody, let's say, who's a LinkedIn specialist or a Pinterest specialist or, social media strategist or whatever it might be. And so, yeah, yeah. But I bet there'll be some people in the room who might be able to better answer that question for you.
I'm asking for a friend. If I'm a recent fashion grad and I need some connections, how could you help me?
Yeah. What's the, yeah. So we should chat. But, you know, it depends on the, I've been out of the fashion industry for 10 years. I'm happy to always make connections with whomever I know. And, you know, it just depends on what the space is that they're looking for. Yeah. But that person should come up and we should chat.
So I know that there's a bit of a difference between a product, running a product business, and running a service business. And I've been going to a lot of networking groups, and it's been great, and I've talked to a lot of wonderful people. But it's a little bit difficult because I have different concerns, like manufacturing and stuff like that. So how do you find groups that are more geared towards product instead of service?
So I haven't been in the product space here in Denver, and when I lived in St. Louis, I actually did get into manufacturing a little bit, and I know it's a whole different ball of wax. But I think that that's a place where maybe using LinkedIn or looking for just kind of doing your research and looking at the different groups that exist and finding out. I'm really upfront with people about the people you're going to meet at Sheer Impact are more on the service end of things, you know. And I would hope that as you're approaching other founders of these networking groups or meetup groups or whatever, that they would be able to, you know, share with you much more specifically who their target audience is and the group that they attract.
So I have two questions. First one is, I'd love to hear how you come up with the name Sheer Impact.
Yeah. So my personal brand is Real Impact, which are my initials. And, you know, so I wanted it to be some sort of a sister brand. It was also a rebrand from an original name. And in thinking about what I wanted something that was still feminine and really conveyed what it is that we do. And I love that word impact. I mean, that's what all my work is about, is creating impact with and for others. And so I said something on the phone one day, and my husband and I both work from home, and he overheard me, and I did not say Sheer Impact, but he misheard me. And I got off the phone, and he's like, actually, I didn't get off the phone. He was texting me. I was on with a client, and my phone kept going off, and I was like, oh my gosh, what could he possibly want? And he said the name, and I was like, that's it. And lo and behold, he's actually named all my businesses. So, yeah.
So my other question, I'm not quite sure how to phrase it, but I think I remember seeing on Facebook that event that you went to at Denver Startup Week. And I remember going like, wow. Like I remember before it was like, I want to go. And then I remember afterwards like, man, I wish I could go, right? And then I'm also a single dad, and there's all kinds of single mom support groups. And I need to go there. I need those solutions. With that being said, I would love to hear like some of the secrets that you have. And I'm just wondering, or maybe inviting you, I don't know, but at some point, what about men? I would love to see if there's a way to get some of those secrets, because men don't create the solutions like the women actually. And solve community issues as well as bring us together naturally.
Yeah. Wow. Thanks for asking that. It's actually something that I've thought a lot about because I've had several men come to me in seeing me building my brand online and ask if I would work with them. And, you know, I preach go for the niche with my clients, so I feel like I can't be a traitor there, you know. But I empathize, and I really get it. And you know, my brother also, actually, I'm one of four, and all four of us, so I have two sisters and a brother, all four of us have our own organizations. And so watching him, that really became very sort of personal and real for me as well. You know, I have to give that some thought, and we should, you know, exchange information and chat because I haven't landed on a solution. But I think you're right, like women naturally, and we, you know, I say like when you walk into Sheer Impact, we turn handshakes into hugs. Like, you know, we're hugging people that we just met 20 seconks ago.
I've done that at Bronco games.
Bronco games. That's where you feel the love, right, Doug?
Although I haven't felt a lot of love there lately, but yeah.
No. Yeah, so I don't have a great answer, but I recognize that there is a void there that men are looking for. Let's start a business. We'll talk.
What kind of advice would you give to somebody who has started a business before and tanked and then decided to go to 9 to 5 as a means to an end, but then hasn't seemed to find an idea that they're passionate enough about again, probably because they're caught up in their 9 to 5 whirlwind of stress and just thinking about, oh my gosh, now I'm making this money and I don't want to stop making this money, but I know that what's for me is so much more than this, and I just, like, what kind of advice would you give to somebody like that?
Yeah. So really where my deep passion is helping people unleash their own potential. You know, I think that also, like, the world will look like such a different place if we women are empowered and fulfilled and, like, living our best lives. So that really strikes like exactly what the kind of thing that, you know, I'm hoping that all women will do, is like even to ask that question, right? But the advice I think I would give is that is carving out time. Like I always tell people, you're not going to stand up your best friend. Don't stand yourself up. You know, carve out the time to do the work, to figure it out. So figure out what fuels you, what lights you up, where you feel like your talents lie. Even when a startup tanks, that doesn't mean it was a failure. And so what have you learned from those experiences? What can you take with you into the next thing? And I think just carving out the time and possibly working with somebody on that. I don't exactly know who. I mean, I want to say a life coach, but like it sort of like straddles several different areas. But I think it's even maybe just having a friend who can sort of push you to continue to think bigger and drill down into who you really want to be and how you want to be living. But putting it on the calendar.
Anyone else?
You kind of mentioned this earlier with your experience talking to several different, or working with several different types of women and being able to distinguish, okay, you know, who's ready versus who's not ready. I'm 24 and I just started my first like 9 to 5 type of job, but I've had an idea and I'm definitely more of an aspiring entrepreneur type person. I think there's that voice in the world that says like, oh, millennials, they're 24 and like, they just want to like, they don't want to do the work and they want to go. And I'm similar, like I have a lot of passions and things, so I know sometimes I'm aware of like, just need to rest and let it happen. But, you know, where would you say where you can distinguish when is the time to take the jump and the risk? How do you really self-evaluate, you know, speaking into that a little bit, I guess?
Sure. Yeah, that's a really good question. And on some level, I'll tell you there's never a good time. You know, I think what we're talking about are the traits, the characteristics of a person. So what I identified and what I was speaking to in my first business boot camp was you know, women who may have said they wanted to start their own thing, but they didn't really have the drive, really that ambition. I mean, to like get through it, right? Because it can get like mucky. And so the way you're talking, I can already tell that you are the right person and there's never a great time, you know? And so, you know, and I think you're in a fantastic position because you have a job and you're 24, so you probably have more energy than I do. And so, yeah, like use all that energy and time you have outside of your, what is realistically, hopefully a 9 to 5. There's still a lot of hours in the day. So I think that you can use that to really just start to develop out what that can become. And then you figure out, you know, we have to admit there are realities about our worlds, right? Like at some point you have to look at yourself and say, I can financially afford to do this without the 9 to 5, or I can't. And those are just basic realities. But then there are also some sacrifices that we can make, right? You know, people talk about the Starbucks effect or the dry cleaning effect, right? Like how much dry cleaning, or, you know, do you have to have a coffee out of your house every day? Or could you buy a machine and save a little bit of money? And it's not a little bit, like it starts to add up. And so there are some choices that can be made to help you get to that stage, but I can already tell, I totally want to connect with you. You've got the energy. Yeah.
All right, let's give it up for Rachel.
Aw, thanks, Doug.
I believe there's still more pizza and beer and vodka and all that good stuff. Rachel will hang out for a little bit if anyone wants to chat with her, and we'll go back out there. Thanks again for coming, and happy holidays, everyone. We'll see you hopefully next month.